There is a moment, often unspoken, when the soul collapses inward, a silent implosion beneath the surface of our carefully constructed lives, the moment when the question arises, not in words, but in a cold, trembling sensation beneath the ribcage. Why? Why am I here? What is this all for? The walls of certainty dissolve, leaving us alone with the great and terrible silence of existence itself. This is not mere fear, it is an existential anxiety, a dissonance between the infinite vastness of being and the fragile shell of who we think we are. The psalmist once cried out, "Out of the depths I cry to you, O Lord," a voice that echoes across centuries, a voice that we too feel rising from our depths when the ground beneath us quakes and familiar answers fail. Carl Jung called this confrontation the moment of individuation, when the persona, the mask we wear to meet the world, is stripped away, and we are left face to face with the self. You may resist it at first, as all of us do. The mind seeks escape, into distractions, into the noise of accomplishment, into relationships that soothe but do not heal. Yet the existential ache persists, gnawing at the edges of sleep, haunting the quiet moments when no one else is around. This is the invitation, not a curse but a sacred calling to descend into the underworld of the psyche, to meet the forgotten gods within. The shadow waits there, the hidden parts of you, your grief, your rage, your longing for meaning, all that you were told to repress in order to be acceptable, productive, efficient. But they are not dead. They are exiled, buried in the caverns of the unconscious, and now they rise in dreams and symptoms, in anxiety and dread. It is no accident that you feel this anxiety. It is the signal fire from your inner world, a call to awaken, to stop moving through life asleep. Proverbs whispers, "The human spirit is the lamp of the Lord, searching every inmost part." And so, you must become the seeker of your own soul, tracing the flickering light down into the labyrinth. There is terror in this descent. To look at your own shadow is to witness your unlived life, the choices you didn't make, the words you never spoke, the love you withheld. Jung warned, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. This is the path, to feel the weight of your existence, to let the anxiety burn through the layers of illusion and strip you down to something raw, something real, not to eliminate fear, but to understand it as a compass. Anxiety reveals where your soul longs to expand, where you are still trapped in patterns too small for who you are becoming. The ego clings to safety, the job title, the family role, the cultural identity, but these are brittle constructs when the soul is calling you to something deeper. To surrender to this process is to risk everything, but it is the only path to authentic life. As the psalm declares, "Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me." You are not alone in this descent. Every seeker who has dared to live fully has walked through this valley. The prophets, the poets, the mystics, all felt the grip of existential dread and chose not to numb it, but to let it guide them toward the sacred center. And so you must breathe here in this uncomfortable space, neither rushing ahead nor retreating. You must stand still and let the anxiety speak its truth, that your life is not meant to be lived on the surface, that you are more than your resume, more than your image, more than the roles you've rehearsed for so long. You are a soul, a spark of the eternal, placed here not by accident, but with a purpose that exceeds your current comprehension. The existential anxiety you feel is not a flaw. It is the holy discomfort that precedes transformation. It is the contraction before birth, the storm before clarity. Let it break you open. Let it dismantle your false certainties. Let it initiate you into the deeper dimensions of your own being. This is the paradox Jung so often spoke of, that healing and wholeness are found not by escaping suffering, but by descending into it, by allowing it to reveal what the superficial life has concealed. The anxiety is not here to destroy you, but to strip away what is not truly you. And as the layers fall away, you will begin to sense, faintly at first, the presence of something enduring beneath the chaos, the self, the divine image within you, placed there long before your first breath. The self does not scream for attention. It does not compete with the clamor of the world. It waits patiently beneath the ruins of your constructed identity, ready to guide you when you are finally ready to listen. Proverbs says, "The purposes of a person's heart are deep waters, but one who has insight draws them out." This is your task now, to draw out the deep waters within you, to listen not just to the anxiety, but to what lies beyond it, the calling, the vision, the unique purpose that only you can fulfill. And though you may tremble as you walk this inner path, know this: you are moving closer to truth, closer to the authentic ground of your being, closer to the God who dwells not in the heavens alone but in the silent chambers of your heart. And as you take each uncertain step deeper into this interior wilderness, you begin to realize what you once called anxiety is, in fact, the voice of life itself, summoning you to awaken. The soul does not speak in the language of convenience. It does not negotiate with comfort. It communicates through longing, through discomfort, through the haunting realization realization that something essential is missing from the carefully curated narrative you've been living. Jung reminds us that the unconscious is not merely a repository of forgotten memories or repressed desires. It is the wellspring of creativity, the hidden source of purpose, the place where your truest potential resides, dormant yet alive. And this is why your existential anxiety feels so devastating. It is not simply a symptom to be treated, but a doorway to be opened, a threshold to be crossed. Behind that threshold lies the archetypal realm, those universal patterns of the human experience that Jung mapped with such precision. The hero's journey, the wounded healer, the exiled child. These are not myths relegated to ancient texts. They are living realities within you, structures of meaning that shape your destiny whether you recognize them or not. When you ignore them, when you refuse the call, anxiety festers in your body, your relationships fracture, your work loses its soul. But when you turn toward them, when you heed the inner summons, everything begins to shift. The darkness becomes less terrifying, and the chaos begins to reveal its hidden order. The psalmist wrote, "Deep calls to deep in the roar of your waterfalls." This is that moment, the deep within you, recognizing and answering the deep beyond you. And it is here, in this sacred space between fear and faith, that you must make the most important decision of your life, to either recoil into the familiar, anesthetizing yourself with distractions, or to step forward into the unknown, trusting that something greater than your limited ego is guiding the way. The world you knew will resist your transformation. The people around you may not understand. Even your own mind will wage war against this inner revolution, clinging to old patterns, whispering that you should play it safe, keep things as they are. But safety is no longer your true concern. Your concern now is wholeness, and wholeness demands the integration of all that you are, not just the persona, but the shadow too, not just your strengths, but your wounds, not just your light, but your darkness. For it is only when you embrace the totality of your being that you can begin to live with authenticity and courage. The book of Ecclesiastes declares, "He has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the human heart." That eternal longing is the root of your existential anxiety, the ache for something transcendent, for a life infused with meaning that surpasses the transient successes of the world. You were not made to simply survive, to merely accumulate achievements or possessions. You were made to participate in the unfolding of something eternal, to become a vessel through which the divine expresses itself uniquely and irreplaceably. But to live this way requires the death of the false self, the self that has been meticulously crafted to avoid rejection, to seek approval, to conform to expectations that were never truly your own. This death is not a physical one, but a psychological and spiritual surrender. It is the relinquishing of the illusion of control and the embrace of a deeper, more mysterious order that pulses beneath all things. As Jung wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But this privilege is earned through the willingness to confront your inner abyss, to face the existential terror of not knowing who that true self is, and yet to continue the search anyway. The anxiety you feel is, paradoxically, the sign that you are alive, that your soul refuses to be numbed, that the spark of the divine within you still burns with longing. It is not your enemy, it is your guide. Do not suppress it, do not silence it. Instead, become curious. Ask it what it has to teach you. What parts of yourself have you neglected? What dreams have you abandoned? What truths have you feared to speak? The book of Isaiah proclaims, "You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast because they trust in you." But steadfastness does not mean rigidity. It means rootedness in the self, a deep anchoring in who you are, beyond the fluctuations of mood, beyond the chaos of circumstance. This is the peace that surpasses understanding, not the absence of anxiety, but the transformation of it, from paralyzing fear into purposeful action, from oppressive weight into sacred fuel for your becoming. So, take a breath now, and feel the gravity of your existence. Feel the weight not as a burden, but as an invitation to ground yourself in something deeper than fleeting pleasures or external validations, to root yourself in purpose. Purpose is not something you invent, it is something you uncover, something that emerges organically as you align with the deeper truth of who you are. It is not always grand or dramatic. Sometimes it is as simple as living with integrity, loving without condition, speaking your truth, creating what only you can create. But to do this, you must first clear the debris of the false self, the layers of conditioning and fear that have accumulated over the years. This is the inner work, the sacred labor of individuation, the alchemical process through which the lead of your unconscious fears is transmuted into the gold of conscious purpose. You are already in the crucible. The heat you feel is the necessary friction of transformation. Do not flee from it. Stay present. Allow it to do its work. And as you do, you will find, slowly, imperceptibly at first, that your existential anxiety begins to shift. Not because life has become easier or more predictable, but because you have become more resilient, more attuned to the deeper rhythms of existence. You will begin to see that anxiety is not the absence of purpose, but the signal that you are ready to claim it. And so you walk further, no longer as a fragmented self torn between who you think you should be and who you truly are, but as a soul in the process of remembering. This is the ancient journey, inscribed in the myths of every culture: the exile from the garden, the wandering in the desert, the descent into Hades. Always, it is a leaving behind of the familiar to encounter what is most real. You stand now at the crossroads where fear meets purpose. The path ahead is not clear, and it was never meant to be. The psalmist cried, "Your word is a lamp to my feet, a light on my path." Not a floodlight illuminating the distant horizon, but a small flame, enough for the next step. This is all that is required of you, to take the next step, even if your hands tremble, even if your voice shakes, even if every part of you screams to turn back. You are not being asked to have certainty. You are being asked to have courage, to trust the process unfolding within you, to believe that the disintegration you feel is not the end, but the beginning, the necessary breaking open that allows the new life to emerge. As you shed the layers of illusion, you will encounter resistance from within. The ego will protest, fearing its own dissolution. It will remind you of the comforts you are leaving behind, the security of your well-worn patterns. But do not be deceived. The comfort you seek in those patterns is not peace. It is anesthesia, and you are here to awaken, not to sleep through your one precious life. Jung taught that, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. This is the essence of your existential anxiety. It is the unconscious urging you to see, to know, to reclaim the parts of yourself you have disowned. Perhaps you feel small in the face of this task. Perhaps you believe that your life is too ordinary to carry the weight of such transformation. But hear this: there is no ordinary life. There is no insignificant soul. The very fact that you feel this anxiety means that your soul is alive and restless for its destiny. The book of Jeremiah records these words from the divine: "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." This is the truth that underlies your existence. You were known before you knew yourself. You were called before you could even speak your own name. And now you are being called again, not to a life of passivity, but to a life of meaning, of responsibility, of purpose. This is not the kind of responsibility that society imposes on you, to meet deadlines, to fulfill obligations, but the deeper responsibility to be who you are, fully and without apology. The self within you has been waiting patiently for this moment, waiting for you to outgrow the narrow confines of your false identity, to hear the faint melody of your unique purpose rising above the noise of cultural expectations. The anxiety you feel is the tension between the life you have settled for and the life you are being summoned to live. It will not leave you alone until you answer the call. It will haunt your quiet moments. It will disrupt your sleep. It will pierce through your distractions, not to torment you, but to guide you home. Home, not in the sense of a place, but of a state of being, a wholeness and integration of all that you are, the wounded child and the wise elder, the doubter and the believer, the shadow and the light. You are not here to eradicate your darkness. You are here to integrate it, to transform it into wisdom, compassion, and strength. For it is only by embracing your shadow that you become whole, and only the whole human being can live with true purpose. As the Apostle Paul wrote, "We have this treasure in jars of clay, to show that this all-surpassing power is from God, and not from us." You are fragile, yes, but within that fragility resides a treasure, the power to create, to love, to heal, to contribute something to the world that no one else can. Your purpose is not some abstract ideal waiting for perfect conditions. It is here now, in the midst of your uncertainty, in the midst of your fear, in the midst of your longing. It is revealed as you take each courageous step into the unknown, as you trust the inner wisdom that has been guiding you all along. And as you walk this path, you begin to understand that existential anxiety is not something to be conquered, but something to be companioned, a sacred messenger that continually reminds you to live intentionally, to stay awake, to refuse the temptation to drift through life in unconscious patterns. Proverbs reminds us, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. This is the essence of living with purpose, to guard your heart, to stay connected to your deepest truth, to act from that place no matter how the world around you shifts and changes. The journey will not always be easy. There will be days when the old anxieties resurface, when the voice of fear becomes deafening, when you doubt the path altogether. But know this: you are not walking alone. The same divine presence that placed eternity in your heart walks with you through every valley, stands with you on every mountaintop, and whispers to you in every moment of silence. Do not be afraid, for I am with you. This is the promise. This is the anchor for your soul. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, you will begin to feel it. The shift from anxiety to purpose, from fear to trust, from fragmentation to wholeness. Not because the circumstances of your life have become perfect, but because you have become aligned with the deeper current of your being. You will no longer seek to escape the weight of existence, but will carry it with dignity dignity, with grace, with a sense of sacred responsibility. You will live, not as someone consumed by the fear of death, but as someone who has chosen, in full awareness of mortality, to embrace life with everything you are. And as you continue to walk this path, your soul begins to expand beyond the narrow confines of the self you once believed you were. The illusions fall away like withered leaves in autumn, and what remains is something elemental, something enduring, a quiet, fierce clarity that you were born not to conform, but to contribute, not to fit in, but to radiate, not to be safe, but to be true. Existential anxiety no longer controls you, for you now understand its purpose. It is not an enemy, but a guide, a catalyst for transformation. It pressed you to confront the meaninglessness that haunts the surface of modern life, to seek something deeper, something eternal, and you answered. You entered the depths. You wrestled with your shadow. You stood naked before your own soul. This is the sacred wound that opens you to grace, the thorn in the flesh that keeps you humble, the reminder that you are both dust and breath, earth and spirit. The book of Psalms declares, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." And indeed, it is through your brokenness that the light now enters, through your surrender that you finally become free. The world will not always recognize this transformation. It may still judge you by its old measures, success, wealth, power, status, but these no longer enslave you, for you have touched something they cannot offer, an inner liberation, a sense of belonging to the cosmos itself. You begin to live with a quiet, unwavering purpose, no longer grasping at validation, no longer driven by the fear of insignificance. You know now that your life matters, not because of what you achieve, but because of who you are, a soul on the path, a vessel of the divine, a participant in the great unfolding mystery of existence. And in this realization, the anxiety that once felt suffocating becomes fuel for creativity, compassion, and courage. You step into your days with the awareness that each moment is an opportunity to embody your purpose, to bring forth into the world the unique expression of the divine that only you can offer. As Jung wrote, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely, but you have done this, or you are doing it in small, trembling steps, and each step matters, for it brings you closer to your true home, not a place but a way of being. The sacred texts remind you again and again, be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. This presence is not external, distant, or conditional. It is within you, as close as your next breath, as steady as your own heartbeat. You are now a living paradox, fragile yet strong, finite yet eternal, wounded yet healed. The anxiety that once fractured you now integrates you. The fear that once paralyzed you now propels you. The longing that once ached within you now fills you with a profound sense of connectedness to all that is. You realize that purpose is not a destination, but a way of walking through the world, awake, aware, willing to engage fully with the beauty and the tragedy, the joy and the suffering, the light and the darkness. The book of Proverbs says, "In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your path straight." This is not a promise of ease, but of alignment. You are no longer aimless, no longer drifting. Your path is straight, not because it is simple, but because it is true. And so you continue now not as someone consumed by existential anxiety, but as someone shaped by it, refined by it, made luminous by it. You carry within you the wisdom of the descent, the courage of the confrontation, the beauty of the transformation. You understand now that existential anxiety was never a curse, but a gift, a sacred initiation into the deeper dimensions of life. Without it, you might have continued sleepwalking through your days, mistaking busyness for purpose, comfort for fulfillment. But now, you are awake. And in this awakening, you find the strength to offer your life in service to something greater than yourself, to love more deeply, to create more authentically, to lead more courageously, to live more fully. For this is what it means to tackle existential anxiety with purpose, not to vanquish it, but to transform it, to let it strip you down to what is essential, to let it forge you into someone capable of carrying the weight of your own existence with dignity and grace. You are no longer merely surviving. You are living with purpose, with presence, with passion, and in doing so, you become a light in a world that so often stumbles in darkness. As the psalmist sings, "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? Indeed, whom shall you fear now?" You have faced your deepest fears, you have walked through your inner valleys, and you have emerged not unscathed, but transformed. You know now that fear will visit again, as will doubt, and sorrow, and longing. But you also know that you are capable of meeting them with courage, with compassion, with wisdom born of your own hard-won journey. This is your life. This is your purpose. To walk awake through the world, to embrace both its beauty and its terror, to live as a soul in process, to love without reserve, to create without apology, to serve without seeking reward. You are here, now, and that is enough. You are enough. And so you take the next step, not because you know where the path leads, but because you have finally finally understood that the path itself, this uncertain, beautiful, terrifying, sacred path, is your purpose, and you walk it now not in fear but in freedom.